Welcome to Fontaine International's pre-delivery inspection and in-service procedures for No Slack 2 fifth wheels. This program covers 7000, C7000, and 6000 models. Remember to exercise extreme caution, follow all stated and customary safety procedures, and be sure to wear safety glasses. Begin with a visual inspection. Check all the mounting hardware and make sure there are no missing nuts or bolts. Also, check for any damage that may have occurred during delivery. Look under the fifth wheel and make sure that nothing is hanging loose. Check and make sure the bracket pins on both sides of the fifth wheel are in place and secured by retainer pins and cotter pins. Now make sure your fifth wheel locking mechanism is functioning properly. Begin with the fifth wheel in the unlocked position. Insert a test kingpin, such as Fontaine Kingpin Tool MSC 712, to close the lock. Only minimal force is required to couple your No Slack 2. Make sure the jaw and wedge are engaged behind the kingpin, and the pull handle is fully retracted. In the locked position, the pull handle should be within 1 inch of the skirt of the wheel. Open and close the wheel again. Look for a quick, crisp closing action. Now, check the wedge stop rod adjustment. Push on the wedge stop rod until it touches the end of the wedge and let it spring back. The wedge stop rod is spring-loaded and should spring back out after you push it in. This movement or free play should be 1/4 of an inch when coupled to a 2-inch kingpin. To adjust, turn the wedge stop rod counterclockwise to increase the free travel, or clockwise to reduce free travel. Turning it in too far will result in slack and cause premature wear, but any misadjustment can cause the fifth wheel to bind and become very hard to open. Now lubricate the fifth wheel. On models without bracket liners, apply grease to the 2 Zerk fittings on each side of the top plate. These supply lubricant to the bracket bearings. Bearings should be greased with the fifth wheel in an unloaded condition. Rock the wheel back and forth while applying grease. Some grease should flow from the bearing pockets. If you do not see grease coming from the bearing pocket, use a crowbar to lift the top plate while applying grease. On models with bracket liners, it is not necessary to lubricate the fittings on each side of the top plate. Now it's time to lubricate the lock mechanism. First, trip the wheel closed by pushing the bumper off its seat with a pry bar. Be careful, when the mechanism closes, the handle moves in quickly. Next, pull back slightly on the pull handle, separate the jaw and wedge with a big screwdriver, and distribute grease between the jaw and wedge, pressing it between the serrated surfaces. Fontaine recommends a moly-based lubricant such as Mobile Grease Moly 50 or equivalent. Also apply grease to the stationary jaw at the front of the throat. Now, work the lock mechanism back and forth several times to further distribute the grease. For sliding fifth wheels, lightly lubricate the pivot points of the mechanism. Operate the mechanism to ensure it is functioning properly. Now it's time to lubricate the top of the fifth wheel. Apply liberal amounts of grease to the entire surface of the fifth wheel, making sure the grooves in the surface are full of new grease. This initial greasing is very important. Your new Fontaine fifth wheel is ready to be put into service. Refer to Fontaine's 90-day, 30,000-mile preventive maintenance procedures for future service instructions.